Look at this big, beautiful bill,
Mhm.
for example. Well, you know what? Let's talk about that for a minute
Let's do it.
because today Elon Musk came out swinging for Donald Trump's face. There's been a complete 180 between Trump and Musk. And Musk said this is the worst bill that has ever been written. It's going to add trillions of dollars to the national debt. It's going to collapse the economy. The truth is, well, assuming all that's true, I think it probably is true. One of the things that this so-called big beautiful bill does is that it ends a lot of the incentives that Congress had set aside for people to buy electric cars. And those incentives have resulted in billions of dollars in Elon Musk's pockets. So apparently the $444 billion that he's worth right now isn't enough. He needs more. And so he came out swinging against Donald Trump today. And I saw on CNN that this took the White House by surprise. They didn't expect this. You know, if he was going to be opposed to the bill, they would have expected that he pick up the phone, call the president, and say, "Hey, I'm not sure I like this." And so that is not what he did. He is spoiling for a public fight with Donald Trump. It's been a surprise to me. Now, talking about the deficit. Well, of course it's going to add to the national debt, not just the deficit. Of course it is. Over the course of 10 years, it's going to add $2.6 trillion. Those are numbers that come out of the Congressional Budget Office, which is nonpartisan. It's a bunch of nerds.
Those are numbers for sure.
Yeah, it's a bunch of nerds and eggheads who do this kind of thing for a living. And we're very quickly getting to the point, or perhaps we've gotten to the point, where at 110% of GDP, we're just not going to be able to pay the interest on these government bonds to finance the debt and pay for defense and pay for Social Security and everything else. So I think Donald Trump is getting himself into a pickle here. I don't think he cares. I think he'll just blame Democrats somehow. But, you know, the last time there was a balanced budget and the national debt was actually cut was under Bill Clinton.
That's correct. He did that. He did pay down some of the debt. I mean, you know, I think psychologically we're sort of looking at a financial version of Malthusianism, right? Which is the theory that the Earth has too much population to be able to support human life. And you know, Thomas Malthus came up with this idea in the late 1700s.
Yeah,
he predicted by 1800, game over. Obviously, that didn't happen. And the thing is, though, but maybe he was just early, right? And we won't know until it's too late. You know, now that we have 7 billion people on the planet or more.
Right.
So this could be the same thing. When will we know that it's gone too high? I mean, we'll know when it's too late. I mean, it's just this. It's like sleepwalking. It's all good until you fall off a cliff. And I don't know. It is super interesting. What do you make, John, of the fact that there are members in MAGA world of the Republican House of Representatives who are saying now they're complaining that about various aspects of the bill that they voted for that they were unaware of? And you're not going to hear me say these words very often, but Marjorie Taylor Greene made a
I know, right?
She said, look, over 1,000 pages. And here's the important part. And they were changing everything until the last moment before we voted. So there was no way to read it all. She's right. And there should be, honestly, a parliamentary procedure that says that a bill has to be, the vote can't take place until, say, 7 business days or whatever you want to say. Right. After the final text has been approved. You shouldn't be able to ram through amendments 5 seconds before a vote. I mean, it's not reasonable. I mean, also, it's hilarious to see Democrats complain about, making fun of Republicans for their second thoughts, because they all voted for the USA Patriot Act that they themselves didn't read, and neither did the Republicans. They do this all the time. It's not LBJ who famously memorized every piece of legislation and could walk into the Senate cloakroom and buttonhole one of his colleagues and say, hey, John, could you, section 17, subparagraph D, can we strike that parenthetical? And people are, what? I'll have to look that up. He knew everything. Those guys are long gone. Nobody in Congress does that. At most, they have staff read everything and summarize it for them. But, I mean, I guess my point here is if there's regrets on the House side, and, it passed by one vote, so any regrets means it would have not passed. Marjorie said she wouldn't vote for it if she had to do it all over. Not about the bill, not about the deficit, but about another issue. What is going to happen in the Senate? I mean, the Republican margin is higher there, but there's got to be Republicans who are torn between their loyalty to MAGA world and not wanting to piss off the president, but also thinking about the midterms next year, possibly presidential ambitions once Trump is gone. And, they've got to be thinking a lot of the Republican base really doesn't like this staggering amount of debt. And they also probably won't like the work requirements for Medicaid, because it's going to affect them disproportionately.
Sure. I saw an interview this afternoon with Senator Murkowski of Alaska. And she's an anti-Trump Republican. She's long been anti-Trump, and she said nothing good about this bill. But you're right. The Republicans have a much bigger margin in the Senate than they do in the House, and budget bills are not subject to filibuster. And so the Republicans only need 51 votes. They have, 53 or 54? I think they're going to have... Yeah, I think they're going to have an easier time in the House than they do in the Senate. Now, with that said, expect the Democrats to be unified, both in the House and in the Senate. But the Republicans can only lose a handful. They can lose 3 in the Senate and 4 in the House, or 3 in the House.
They'll lose the 2 that you mentioned.
Yes.
Collins and Murkowski. There's a little bird that flew away.
Yeah.
They threaten to do this.
They do. And then they fall into line.
This time,
which is very frustrating.
I think this time they can't vote for it.
Yeah. I wanted to say, too, how it was always my experience when I was on Capitol Hill that nobody reads those bills. None of the members read those bills. And then they'll give you an excuse, which is kind of a good excuse for a minute. And that is, well, the whole bill is going to get changed in conference committee anyway. And as soon as it's reconciled, it's going to be a completely different bill. Well, yeah, but then it goes straight to the floor of both chambers for a vote. So you don't have time to read it then either. So you have lobbyists writing these bills, staff summarizing the bills, and the members not even bothering to read the bills. And it's those bills that become law that we have to live our lives by.
And John, you're not exaggerating. When you say lobbyists are writing it, I think a lot of people think that what we mean by that is lobbyists are very influential.
No, lobbyists are. I told this story on a podcast the other day.
They cut and paste it, right?
Yes, they do. I told a story on a podcast the other day that when I was working for John Kerry, he told us he wanted us to write a carbon credit bill. It had nothing whatsoever to do with the Foreign Relations Committee, but he was the number 2 on the Finance Committee, and that was his interest, carbon credits. So, I don't know anything about carbon credits, and neither does the guy sitting next to me or the guy across from me. And so I went into the office one day, a Monday morning, and there's a guy sitting in my desk. And I said, "Who the hell are you?" And he said, "Oh, I'm the lobbyist." I said, "For what?" He said, "I'm going to write the carbon credit bill." I said, "I thought we were writing the carbon credit bill." "Nope, I'm writing it." And it wasn't just him. It was like 5 other lobbyists. I made him get the hell out of my desk. But they took over a good chunk of the office. They wrote this carbon credit bill, which failed, by the way, in committee. So it was never passed into law. And, that's when I realized that staff writes none of the legislation. Now, I got a master's degree in legislative affairs just so that I could someday work on Capitol Hill and write legislation.
But there's no second job.
No.
Well, you should have become a lobbyist, John.
I should have. I wouldn't be in this rental house right now if I had been.
So what do you think about the Musk factor? Is apparently he's he's gotten dragged on social media, but it's having an effect. It's got to be.
It's got to be, because he did it publicly. If he had called Mike Johnson or whoever at the White House is the head of congressional liaison, or the White House political director, and said, listen, you guys really have to stick this credit for electric vehicles back in. That's not what he did. He called Fox News and he said, this is the worst bill I've ever seen in my life. It's the worst budget in American history. It's going to put us in bankruptcy. Why would you do that? Unless he had already been turned down. I don't know.
But also, Elon Musk is an impulsive person.
He is impulsive, and he gets himself in trouble. How many times has he been investigated by the SEC because he'll tweet something that he thinks is cute, and instead it manipulates stock prices, and then there's an investigation.
Yeah, like the 420 thing.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
Exactly.
That's a whole story.